percentage chance of matching. So if you remember, we said 50% of people matched your residency. And we said the average step 1 score was 227. So if you move 50% and 227, that's your average. But as you guys can see, the better you do on the exams, the higher your chances are of getting that spot. Okay? And this is directly from the NRMP, the matching program. So if you get a 260 on step 1, you have over an 80% chance of getting that spot. Okay? So again, this really brings it back into your own hands. The better you do on these exams, the better your chances are going to be of getting that spot. And at the end of the day, your scores aren't going to lie to you. You're going to know how ready you are. You're going to know if you're prepared enough to get that high score that you need. Okay? Unfortunately, the same thing goes true for failures. So the more attempts that you have on these exams, the less likely of a chance you're going to have of getting that spot. So if you take the exam more than 2 times, it drops down to about 20% match. Okay? So really important to remember. You got to do the best you can on your first try. Remember we talked about years after graduation. Okay? So this is for non-US IMGs. The average was 4.7. And I thought that was surprising because people are always like, oh, if I graduated more than 5 years ago, I'm not going to have a chance. Well, as you can see, the average is 4.7 years after graduation. The average for unmatched is 7.5. So obviously, the longer you go, the more difficult it is. But don't let years out of graduation be what stops you. There's plenty of people that I've worked with that are more than 10 that got into residency because their application was strong. Mohammed, you're going to have to ask a much more specific question. How about matching surgery or cardiac surgery? To be more specific, I'm not sure what the question is. You're going to the unfortunate thing about transfer credits. Your scores for USMLE are valid for 7 years. So you have to take step 1, step 2 CK, and step 2 CS within 7 years in order to be ECFMG certified. Elif, congratulations. 19 years after graduation, and you have 2 interviews. That's exactly what we're talking about. So very happy that you got the 2. Remember what we talked about, the program director surveys. These are slides right from that survey. So when they're considering people for interview, what are they looking for? These are the top responses. Step 1 score, if they failed. So 63%, as you can see, for people, when you consider applicants who fail the exam on their first attempt, 63% of programs aren't seldom looking at people that failed the exam. But 11% often interview people that failed an exam. Again, it's finding those right programs. And so, we got the question before. Can I apply without step 2 CK or without step 2 CS? Some programs might give you a chance, but most programs aren't. Okay, so this is the survey that I was talking about. So they asked 1,793 program directors. What's the most important thing when you're selecting people for an interview? Okay? And this is the average. This is the of all the answers. So first, step 1 score. Then they say letters of recommendation in a specialty. Then they say your medical school performance, how well you did in school. Then they say step 2 CK, step 2 CS score. That's when selecting people for an interview. Okay? All right, that's a great question, and then there's no great answer. It's a matter of doing the research, contacting programs, finding out. If you have a failure, that's a question that you ask. I'm interested in applying to your program. I failed step one, unfortunately. Well, you still consider an applicant that has a failure. Reach out to them. If they say yes, you put it on your list. If they say no, then you don't waste your money. But it's not easy. So again, when it comes to who to choose for an interview, all about scores, things that we talked about. When it comes to choosing people who to rank, most international graduates don't have a dean's letter. It's really mostly for U.S. students and Caribbean students. So you don't have to worry about that for international graduates. This survey was for everybody, so it's a little skewed for IMGs, but good question, Dr. Navi. Then it goes to who to choose for to rank. And again, what I say, interaction with faculty during the interview and the visit, interpersonal skills, interaction with the house staff, feedback from current residents, and then they start getting back into the application. So, again, you want to make sure your application is strong to get the interview. After the interview, you got to be prepared. You got to be ready to knock that out of the park. And like we talked about, everybody needs to assess their own competitiveness. People are putting in the chat their personal background, and I'm not going to be able to give you an answer. If you tell me you got a 220 and a 220, am I going to get a residency? I can't give you an answer. What I can do is show you what you can do to make yourself as competitive as you can be and put your best foot forward on the application. And that's what we at Kaplan do. I mean, we want to help you with your USM leads exams, but if that's already done, we want to make sure you have everything you need to be a competitive applicant. And we have residency programs that can help you get experience, that help you with interviews, all those different things. So you want to make sure you speak to one of our Kaplan medical advisors so that you have a consultation and you understand what you have to do. So from USMLE scores, do I have any clinical experience? Did I apply to the right hospitals, right? Am I applying to hospitals that, based on my application, I got a real chance at getting an interview? What specialties? Strong letters, strong personal statement. If you have a dean's letter from your school, the programs are going to look at it. As you guys saw on the last slide, the third most important thing to program directors. But again, like I said, it's a little skewed because most IMGs don't have dean's letters. So, U.S. medical graduates, they do. So this is skewing this a little bit, but most program directors, when it comes to IMGs, schools in medical school are a little less important just because they don't know the difference between the schools. And it's easy for the program directors in the U.S., they know the difference between the medical schools. They don't know the difference between the medical schools in other different countries. Who should apply to university-based programs versus who should apply to community? U.S. University-based programs, in general, are more difficult for international medical graduates. Generally, if it's a university-based hospital, they have a medical school attached to it, so they're usually less IMG friendly. So IMGs tend to have a better chance at community programs. You talk about gaps in medical education. Absolutely. Everybody's gonna have different gaps. Program directors they understand that it takes some time to do these USMLE exams. They know that it's not going to happen overnight. So if it's a year or 18 months to get ready for USMLE, they understand that. If you were graduated 10 years ago and you've been practicing in your country since then, they're going to understand that. If you've been away from medicine for 5 years and you haven't been, you've been working at a veterinarian office, they might have a problem with that. It's going to come up in the interview. So if you have a big gap, you just have to be ready to talk about it. It's going to come up, and think about it from program directors. They want people that are committed to medicine and focused on this. Just keep that in mind. things happen in life where we get derailed. People understand that. Just keep focused on um, uh, staying positive. Harsh, I don't think so. Like I said before, if the gap was a deal breaker, they wouldn't read your personal statement. So keep the personal statement uh, uh, positive, and if they have a problem with the gap, it would come up. Is my research here considered a gap? Technically, it is. Gap is anything from medical school to the practice of medicine. So if you went from medical school to your country into residency in your country, there's no gap. But if you did a year off for research, technically it's considered a gap in practicing medicine. But many doctors do research, and that's not going to hurt your chances. That's going to help your application. Personal statement, Romulo, 1 page. No more, no less. 1 page. Program directors don't want to read more than 1 page. What about repeating 1 year of medical school? It depends on what the reason was. If you had a family emergency and you had to leave time and go back, that's generally not going to be a major issue. If you had failing grades and then as a result, that could be an issue. But again, it's going to come down to the USMLE scores more importantly. What size? Times New Roman 12. I'll give you an exact answer. Times New Roman 12 fonts, single space, 1.5 space. That's good. How personal can a personal statement be? Such interesting questions. This is the only opportunity for you to show who you are as an applicant. So you don't want to talk about like religion or politics or anything sad, really. Keep it upbeat, keep it positive. If you have a moving story about your life that drove you to medicine, keep that in mind and add that. But also remember that they read so many of these personal statements, and so many of them are so similar. My grandmother, battled this horrible disease, and I saw the way she was struggling, and that made me want to help people and get into medicine. It's a nice story, but remember, those type of things they hear all the time. So you want to try and make it a little bit unique. Samantha asked if we apply now or at the end of the application window that hurt our chances. It does. The later you apply, the less likely of a chance you're going to have of getting interviews. When it comes down to let's say you got no interviews, or let's say you're applying late, it comes down to networking. Who do you know? Do you have any friends that matched your residency that could put a good word in for you? Do you have family? Do you have anything? Have you done any research or clinical experience where you know a program director in the U.S. or you know any doctor in the U.S. that could put a good word in for you? If you're applying off cycle, or if you're struggling to get interviews, that's the best thing you could do. Don't be. Now is not the time to be shy. Now is the time to put your best foot forward and show programs. Maybe my scores aren't where I want them to be, but I know that I'm still going to be a good asset to your program. I'm going to be a good fit for your program. I want to work. That's what program directors want. They want somebody that's ready to work. So guys, these are the same info I gave you the last couple of days, but just again, remember, if you haven't downloaded this Road to Residency calendar, please do it. Awesome calendar. It tells you when things happen, when you have to have things done. So definitely do that. Click the link, and you can go ahead and fill that out. Smith asked, would it be okay to call the program director? So when you go to Frida, it will give you the program director's name and the program coordinator's name. Okay? You should do the research on your own. Find the information that you can. If you want to make a phone, you don't want to contact programs too much. But because you don't want to be annoying. But if the program coordinator's phone number is listed, you could just call. You don't have to give them your name. Hi, I'm interested in applying to your program. Do you accept applicants that have this? And if you want to send an email, you can do that as well. But you don't want to bother the program director with questions like that. Those are questions for the program coordinator. Applications start on September 15th through the end of November. I could definitely give you my email. Smitha asks, how about calling for a follow-up of that application? Like, so let's say right now it's November 19th, you haven't gotten any interviews, and you're struggling. Do I think it's going to hurt at this point to send an email to the program director? I don't think it hurts, and you say, look, I know you may have already decided who to interview. I just want to let you know that I applied to your program. Maybe a 2-sentence about who you are, and say, maybe my application didn't meet the program requirements. That being said, I know, I've done research about your program. I feel that I'd be a good fit for, working with the residents, however you want to do it, and say, I'd really be honored for the opportunity to interview for your program. The next couple of weeks, guys, I'd say the end of November, if you haven't heard, can't hurt to reach out. I'm not saying it's going to do anything, but can't hurt. Now's not the time to be shy, I think. You want to be respectful, but not overly aggressive. Free events, like I said, if you guys are applying this year, some of you, it seems by your questions, you might be. Interviewing for residency, great event with me. You get to hear from me again, and we'll just talk about the interview process. Fellowships happen after residency. So if you apply to residency and then you finish residency and you apply for a fellowship, you don't have to apply for a fellowship. You can do other things when you finish your residency. But if you apply for a fellowship, you do that after residency, and those are usually considered subspecialties. All right, guys, so I know we have a ton more questions coming in. Try to get to whatever we can. Suleiman, no annoying at all. Did I sound annoyed? I apologize if I did. I was trying to get to as many questions as I can. But guys, take advantage of our medical advisors. If you're thinking about going along this process, if you have questions about your own application, then send them an email. You can go to the website and set up a free appointment, and they can reach out to you over Skype, over email, however you want to do it, and then go from there. Let them have a consultation with you, and they can really talk about your personal application. No, thank you guys. I hope this was helpful. Farah, thank you so much. Guys, we're here for you. I try and give you my best advice from my experiences. I'm not a doctor. I worked for Kaplan for a long time. I've worked with lots of students. We have our medical advisors who are doctors. For some of your more technical questions with regards to some of this process, that's what they're here for. Dr. Mary Valentine, one of our expert advisors, she's based in California, especially for those California questions. You can book an appointment directly with her. She just gave you guys a link for her calendar, which is awesome. Thank you, Mary. And we'll go from there. So, guys, thank you so much for being such a great group. I hope I was helpful. I hope that I inspired some of you. And, I'm sure I scared some of you as well. But, it's that was the intention. It's supposed to be a mix of awareness and motivation, right? I want you guys to understand the process, and I want you to be motivated to do your part to be successful. So thank you guys so much. Thanks for your time. We'll hang out, answer a couple more questions, and hopefully I'll see you guys at an event soon. Thanks again, guys.